Can we go to the back there, Daud?
As I said, short and sharp.
Thank you for the opportunity. Deputy President, what are the plans in terms of the infrastructure?
Name?
It's not Kulu. I come from the Arona NPC group. My question is around township economy and the plans to incentivize businesses in terms of the rollout of necessary infrastructure, such as Wi-Fi's and so forth. Please, if you can speak into that. Thank you.
Yes, that program does exist. In fact, I remember launching a program with the former minister, Mondli Gungubele, in Limpopo, where we're putting Wi-Fi connectivity in the township areas. So the program is there, but as you know, there's a new minister there, so we will check with where this program is at the moment, but it was launched already a year ago.
Deputy President, hope you're well. In the clothing industry, we see real opportunity in both local manufacturing and township retail. We're also investing in skills and job creation. But we'd like to understand how can businesses like ours better align with government's priorities to revitalize manufacturing and grow sustainable retail ecosystems across the country.
Your name?
Hamza.
Hamda.
Hamza.
Hamza.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hamza. What we are doing at the moment, we set up what we call the Human Resource Development Council, which I'm chairing, appointed by the President. We work with the private sector, the trade unions, NGO, and we're looking at skill sets in the country. So because you are working in that sector, you're looking at the issue of skills, you can come and work with us. We're already working with a lot of organizations in the country. We particularly are targeting young people, get young people more relevant skills, so that we don't only wait for universities and technical colleges. In fact, the universities are also in the HRDC, the technical colleges. We've also noticed that a lot of young people prefer to go to universities instead of technical colleges. And so we're trying to channel them there. But we want to call on business to be able to do internships. Already as government, we're taking a lot of young people into our departments so that they are given an opportunity to train on duty. I was in Japan last month, and I visited a company called Isuzu. Now, what struck me when I said Isuzu factory, a lot of young people, building these cars, putting different parts on the conveyor belt, and we get them everywhere. They don't come with skills. We train them here. So we get these young people in colleges, out of school. They come to Isuzu, we train them to become the experts that they are now. Why can't we do it in South Africa? A lot of companies, Isuzu I know is also in the Eastern Cape. I'm going to go and visit them and see what they are doing there. But can you imagine if all companies in South Africa are doing exactly that? Bring young people, train them, government departments. We will not sit and say we've got unemployed graduates, because we will train them in what is relevant, the relevant skills that the economy requires. So I think that's what we should do. You must come and work with us.
Morning, Deputy President. Morning. My name is Namsambata. I am from Yeovil, Bellevue, and I won at local level. The performance of councillors is well documented. I want to know if the government would consider, or please consider civic movement representation, participation, and implementation of service delivery issues and decisions.
Yes, indeed. When I go around the country on issues of service delivery, as I said earlier, I meet with traditional leaders, civic organizations, youth organizations. So by all means, ever in the country, is to ensure that we bring various role players. And civic organizations are very key when it comes to this. So that is something that we are open to. We are already engaged in a lot of civic organizations in various areas to work with us. And not just to talk to them in meetings, but practically to be engaged in activities that are happening out there. So it's something that we can talk to you about.
Thank you very much, Sean, for inviting me tonight, and I'm really honored to be here. And our Deputy President there, I remember fondly him coming to Lenasia all way back in the 70s and 80s, so that's great. I'd like to, first of all, compliment our founding fathers for having given us a system that they have. In other words, what they've done is that we've had what we had, and they've built on that rather than destroying that and starting something completely new. In South Africa, we pay taxes left, right, and center. Income tax, value-added tax, corporate tax, progressive tax, property tax, capital gains tax. So we are a winning nation. You know, this year I think we've collected already 2,400 billion in taxes compared to when we started out in 1994, which was said. I like to, what I've been really worried about over the years is that we're not doing anything to give title to people, to shack dwellers, for example. We talk about expropriation without compensation. But we got all these shack dwellers, got all this property that they've put up there. Why can't we survey those properties, give those people title, the titles that they get, they would boost to the economy, you know? I think what makes the Western system so dynamic is because they collect a lot of taxes, and they know how to, what can I say, God, I can say, well, the property, anyway, yeah, thank you very much. I can't get that word, thank you.
Thank you very much. In fact, one of the things the Minister of Human Settlement is doing at the moment is to give titles to people. It's a program that we started quite some time now. When I was the MEC for Human Settlement in Gauteng, I also got involved in pushing that title. And you're quite right, when you give people titles, they have a sense of ownership and they develop their properties. So that program is continuing because otherwise, if they sit and they've built themselves nice houses, and you see them in rural areas, you go to Limpopo, others you see big houses there, but if people don't have title deeds to those properties, they can't go to a bank and say, I own this, can I get more funding to start a business and settles. And expropriation is not a law that is going to target people's properties unfairly. Sometimes people get afraid. In South Africa, there are vast amounts of land that are lying fallow. There are vast amounts of properties and land owned by absentee landlords sitting in London. The land is not being used productively. There are vast amounts of land that are owned by few people in our country. We want more people to have access to this land. And in fact, the state has been compensating people in some areas where we He may not compensate because this land looking at people's houses at all. We're looking at big farms and land that is out there where only one person owns everything. The Freedom Charter, which we'll celebrate this year, said the land must be shared amongst those who work it. We want to make that a reality. This is a document that Comrade Uncle Kathy and them drafted and brought about. We have to share the land. But I agree with you that those who are already building for themselves, the state must demarcate those areas, make them formal townships or suburbs, and give them title deeds for their land so that it's not dead capital.
Thank you. My name is Colin Mulusi. Deputy President, government took a decision not to impose retaliatory tariffs against the US, when most countries basically have decided to do retaliatory tariffs. Why is that, and how do you think that helps us?
Yes, Comrade Connie, we've seen that actually. Many countries, especially in Europe and in the East, have come with retaliatory tariffs against the US. We decided we should take a different approach for now. We want to engage the Trump administration. In fact, even before this issue of tariffs, the president was going to send a delegation to the US, because you recall that there are some people who went to the US, I think it's AfriForum and Solidarity, and said, you know, we are doing bad things in this country. They convinced President Trump, South Africa is doing very bad things out there. So we wanted to send a delegation then, but the issue of tariffs came. So we have agreed, the president said, look, let's not rush, let's engage. Let's use our diplomatic channels to engage with the administration. I don't know where we're going to end up as things intensify. We've already been hit with 30% tariffs for goods that we export to the US. In fact, President Trump was saying he actually gave us a discount. He said it was 60%. So it's South Africa, 60%, but I'm giving them 30% discount. But we think that if like President Trump is doing, then everybody is retaliating. At the end, the people who are going to be victims are the consumers, even the American people, because goods are going to be expensive for them as much as they will be expensive for other countries. So that kind of trade war, tariff, I think is not very helpful. I think we need to find a solution, because you raise tariff, I raise tariff, at the end, who pays? The consumers. Things are becoming more and more expensive. So we do hope, Comrade Sham, that when we send the delegation there, they'll listen to us, hopefully. So let's try that. If it doesn't work, we'll review.
North and ICT sector. And my question is around the budget process. You gave us a very insightful understanding of what happened behind the scenes in trying to get the budget approved, in trying to self-engineer the budget, and especially around the discussions of the committee of 7 ministers. And right at the tail end of that, you mentioned that the DA specifically then shifted the goalpost. and started talking about the Bella Act, the Expropriation Act, etc. Now, you can't have a situation where if you're part of government and you vote against a budget, are you still going to be part of the GNU? Now, my question to you is it up to the DA to decide whether they're going to be in the GNU? Is it up to the GNU, other parties, etc.? And why this question is important to us, especially in the private sector, is you would have noticed that the rand dollar depreciated by over a rand over the last few days, and that's specifically to do with the DA voting against the budget. So obviously there's a concern of what happens to our currency, especially with companies that deal a lot in international and foreign dealings. So what do you foresee the future for the GNU, and especially the DA participation in it? My second question, it will be one second. Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
The future of the GNU. Let me just a brief background that we had a lot of engagements with all parties. The leader of the DA, Minister Steenhuisen, wrote to the president and raised all sort of things. You know, you are not serious about the economy. If you focus on the economy, things will be right. Why don't you fix PRASA, Transnet, and so on? The president responded and said, we are doing exactly that. At some point, I think they also wanted to chair Operation Vulindlela themselves. The president said, no, I chair that myself, but you can come and participate. Now, at the end, before we went to Parliament, the president said to Minister Steenhuisen, if you don't vote for this budget, really the ball is in your court. You are defining yourself outside the GNU if you don't vote for this budget. They nevertheless went and did not vote for it. But I can see some of them are working today. They are still working as ministers. They are going around. I would be ashamed to do that. Because where does the budget come from? You run to work as a minister, you have not voted for a budget, but you think it's okay. No? You're going to work. So I'm not sure what they are thinking. But as I said, the top 7 is meeting at 10 o'clock to decide. It's not for me to decide. We will discuss and see. But I know that Helen Zille was saying this weekend, oh no, they are committed to the GNU. And my response was, vote for the budget. Others, you're going to the government to do what? So we are there now. I guess by this evening you will get the results of the meeting of the top 7 in the NWC.
Good morning, Dr. Kankal and Ahmed Kathrada. Deputy President, the issue of your moral compass, and it's basically a very admirable, and I wouldn't say it's a government policy, I think it's an ANC policy. At what we are doing it at a cost of our poor because of the economic pressures that are on. How are we going to sacrifice that stand? Are we going to negotiate on that stand? Or is it non-negotiable? Thank you.
I guess you're talking
I'm referring to obviously the issue of Palestine.
Palestine. We have always to support those who fight for justice and peace all over the world. We come from a situation where we suffered under apartheid, and we're not going to sit idle when other people are persecuted. Mandela, Uncle Kathy was that we will support other people to get freedom like we did. When we got our freedom in South Africa, because we were supported by others. People all over the world.
DP, the question is the national question. We see the rise of narrow nationalism. We see the rise of tribalism. The national dialogue. And I have a suggestion for the national dialogue that you launch in June this year and go back and intensify this in communities and then come back in June of next year and adopt the plan. Thank you.
Shan says there's a plan. We have agreed that the president, there are plans in place on how we're going to convene it. There are a number of role players. You talked about motive forces. You know that the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, there will be a steering committee set up to ensure that the national dialogue is properly convened. We want to bring almost like we did with the Conference for Democratic Future, or, you know, conventions like those where you leave nobody behind. You bring people in, and then we can have conversation about what kind of South Africa we want to build going forward. What is it that will feature prominently? And I'm sure once the steering committee announces what the agenda will be, the economy will feature prominently, an inclusive economy, dealing with the challenges of crime and corruption, issues of... so there will be an agenda that will be unveiled. As Shan is saying, there's a plan. There is a committee meeting at the moment from that we do proper preparation. Certainly, we want this process to start this year. One of the challenges we have now, we're trying to navigate the scheduling, because we are having the G20 heads of states meeting in November. The ANC is having the National General Council. We've now agreed that will be in December. So hopefully we can accommodate the national dialogue in between, or if the first meeting can happen in June, fine, but we're waiting for the president to announce once he has consulted with the key stakeholders, including the foundations.
Mine is related to the budget. As you indicated, the contingency plan. What is your view in regard to the other contingency plan related to the three spheres of government, cutting one sphere of government, either having national to province or national to local, as will be part, doesn't work, that you have another contingency plan. Lastly, is your commitment as a deputy president for you making sure that you have an annual plan for Ahmed Kathrada Foundation to make sure that the plan are in place in time, in a reasonable venue where people will be access, and many people, to make sure that Ahmed Kathrada survive, because we'll only survive when we come in and sponsor whatever we can sponsor when many people are coming in. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. This engagement that we are having under the name of Comrade Kathy, the Breakfast Series, we will definitely support it from the presidency. To make sure, I think Comrade Shan Henry is complaining that this venue is small. We need a bigger venue, proper venue must not be squeezed like this. But let me put it this way, with the foundation to make so we have the opportunity to bring about important things that affect our country and the globe and how we go forward. So I agree, Henry. Restructuring government is something that we always discuss. Even in the ANC, I mean, this discussion was there. I think, I can't remember, Comrade Mandla, whether it was in the last conference, it didn't win the day. Discussions like those don't happen quickly. They do happen, but you can't say, no, we can restructure government this year and then, provinces are gone and all that. No, it doesn't happen that way. It's a long-term thing to restructure government. But one thing that probably we should agree on is that government must begin to ensure that we do spending review. We look at restructuring to ensure that we don't have bloated institutions. We don't have too many, can ensure that we are able to have a kind of structure and programs that we can fund with our budget so that we avoid borrowing, we avoid increasing taxes, and live within our means. That we will do. But I can't promise that we can wake up tomorrow and say, no, guys, provinces are gone. It will take much more engagement. And maybe we can even discuss it at the national dialogue. People can say, look, can we restructure government, make it leaner? Other people are saying, President, reduce the ministries, merge some of them. I think those are the discussions we should have.
Anyone from this table? The last one.
Hi, Deputy President. My name is Chris Pillay. I come from a company called Pilsen Capital. We have an elephant in the room, the Zondo Commission. When are we going to implement this? We are all ANC comrades, and we want this party to stay in power. There was no need for GNU, and there was no need for a VAT increase. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Can we take the last table there?
Hi, thank you, Deputy President, for being here today. It's an honor. My name is Ridwan Bismillah. I'm actually just a concerned citizen, and I just want to be frank in a point that I was one that reserved my applause because I think now it's not the time for applause. I'd like to reserve my applause for when the job's done. I'm also a person that does not have a political party, which is actually quite scary right now because I don't know who I'm going to vote for at the next election. And that's actually an indictment on all parties involved, not just the ANC or the DA or any one of the other parties. I think we really have to reshape South Africa. But to the point, my question and what I think I feel very passionate about small businesses, which is the powertrain of the economy. I find that firstly they are really affected by security issues. When you can't operate in a country where there's safety and security, it's very difficult to do business. So that stifles a lot of business turnover, and which increases taxes and prosperity for the country. And secondly, the over-regulation of small business. I think that's really killing small business and red tape. Thank you.
I didn't promise it.
That is the point. Good morning, Deputy President. You indicated earlier that obviously South Africa is hosting the G20 this year. I'll just like to hear your views on the geopolitical landscapes and what risk and, more importantly, opportunities you see for South Africa in terms of positioning ourselves, one, to protect and grow our economy, and what's the overall strategy with the current very complex geopolitical situation we find ourselves in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe let me start with that last question. If you look at the theme of our presidency of the G20 to benefit the entire continent, involve the continent, not just South Africa. And solidarity for us is very important. Equality is very important. Sustainability is very important. So we should use the G20 to make sure that after our presidency, we can look back and say we were able to develop not only South Africa, but the continent, missions as well. We know that we are one of the U.S. biggest trading partners, but there's nothing that says, we shouldn't enter and other countries. The European Union was here 2 weeks ago. As Trump is imposing tariffs, the European Union was here, and they said, we want to work with you. So I think we must begin as a country to look at where else can we begin to improve relations, trade relations, people-to-people relations. But also we need to become self-reliant as a country. I can tell you with our program on HIV and AIDS and TB, we spend about 48 billion rand a year as a country. Only 8 billion rand comes from the US. So we don't budget on the basis of what we'll get from others. There are countries in the continent that do that, where we find that their budget for health, 60% come from the US. We don't. So already we are beginning to look at how we can ensure that whatever resources we have, we can use to drive our own program so that we don't rely on aid. So that's what we will do. And I'm hoping that with the G20, we'll be able to work with other countries to be able to ensure that we also strengthen solidarity and focus on economic development, not only of South Africa, but the continent. We think that is also an opportunity to make sure that the African continental free trade area is implemented. So we're bringing that on board as well. So we work with these other countries around that, because Africa itself as a continent is a big market. If we get our story right, if we sort out infrastructure and work to Zondo Commission, the Parliament is currently having a process to deal with that. There is a structure in Parliament that is going through all the recommendations of the Zondo Commission. I think in a matter of time we will get their report in terms of how far they are. Some of the Zondo Commission recommendations are already being implemented because we are already busy with structural reforms, and you know that the Zondo Commission has made recommendations that relate to how government works as well, to avoid corruption. We have a new procurement act that is very transparent, and there will be other laws as well that crime and corruption and ensure that resources are put to best use. Lastly, we will applaud when the job is done. I agree. The job will be done. I've said to my office when I became deputy president that when they ask me, what are your priorities, what do you want to do, I said, implementation. That's where we must focus. We must focus on implementation, the discipline of getting things done. That's what. But thank you very much for the questions. I think we can assure you that we are getting somewhere.
People, you've heard there's a very important meeting happening at 10 o'clock that has got huge implications for the country. Which will happen? No? He says he's going to do Patkos. They'll do a Skafton and...
Yes, because I have to be at Lutuli House at 10.
But I want to take one media question first before we close. Over to you, sir.
R1 trillion was wiped off the JSE when news became, when it became public that the GNU is starting to unravel. If we assume half of that R1 trillion is due to the Trump effect, do you think it's worth it to keep the GNU intact as it is? I.e., do you think it's worth it to keep the DA in government given what happened to the JSE last week? Thank you.
When the DA walked away, we didn't choose them. They must vote for the budget. There's no government that will exist without the budget, so the ball is in their court. We say they can't have their cake and eat it. Here we want commitment. All parties of the GNU are agreeing on the way forward. So we would like to keep the GNU intact, but we have said to all the parties in the GNU, there are things that needs to be done in this country. We must improve basic education, bring more children into the system, improve our health sector. And what the Minister of Finance said is that this is what he wants to do with this 0.5. We don't need the 0.5%. We have told the DA that. So if they are not listening, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do.
Okay, there you have it. Let's wait further developments in the course of the day. I want to invite all of you to join us in breakfast there, but please, I hope that we have all of your registration details. We would like to get your feedback on this session. What worked for you, what didn't work, was it value in terms of your time? And who are the people that you would further want to engage in the course of the year? This is not legacy work of Ahmed Kathrada and the foundation. But we think that the kinds of conversation that you've had here today is something that needs to be encouraged with as many role players as possible, as often as possible. So on behalf of the foundation, I really want to thank all of you here. I want to thank the Deputy President. I really thought that we were going to come. I think speaks volumes for what you think of Ahmed Kathrada and his legacy. So on that note, please join us for breakfast.